While fans worshipped Hollywood's glittering couples, a much darker reality was hidden behind the curtains. Film studios dragged their brightest stars into fake marriages, threatening to destroy the careers of anyone who refused. One star chose real love over fame and left millions behind. Another's wedding night ended in front of a locked hotel door. Today, we're exposing the true stories behind Hollywood's most shameful secret, starting with Rudolph Valentino and Jean Acker. The Latin lover's bitter awakening. Valentino was the legend of Latin lovers, but his first marriage was the cruelest awakening to Hollywood's lavender arrangements. When studio bosses decided that both of their public images needed protection, Jean Acker was way more famous than he was. The wedding night supposedly ended with Acker slamming the door in his face, showing that their marriage would never actually happen. Valentino couldn't grasp his wife's true emotional orientation and kept sending her passionate letters for months. Studio executives panicked when Valentino started appearing in unconventional, non-masculine roles like Monsieur Beaucaire in 1924. They forced him into a second lavender marriage, in 1923 with costume designer Natasha Rambova, who was already in a lesbian relationship with actress Alla Nazimova. By the time his marriage to Rambova ended in 1925, people had started calling Valentino the pink powder puff. The poor guy was just trying to be himself in an industry that demanded he become someone else entirely. The marriage only lasted 2 years before the couple split, confirming suspicions about his second lavender marriage. Both unions failed spectacularly, proving that even the most desperate studio schemes couldn't create chemistry that simply wasn't there. Judy Garland and Vincente Minnelli. The documented arrangement, Judy Garland's marriage to director Vincente Minnelli, was one of Hollywood's most documented lavender arrangements. Minnelli had lived as an openly gay man in New York for years before hitting it big in Hollywood, where the constraints of morality clauses forced him back into the closet. They met when Garland was just 23 on the set of Meet Me in St. Louis, where the 41-year-old was directing. Before his Hollywood career took off, Minnelli was wildly flamboyant and adored the stylistic side of dramatics. His closest confidants never doubted his true identity, but a move to Hollywood forced him to hide who he really was. It was generally assumed that he was a closeted gay man who, due to societal conditions, was forced to maintain the facade of heterosexuality. Garland was apparently well aware of his lifestyle when she married him in June 1945 and had a child with him. Their daughter Liza was born in 1946, but the marriage quickly became troubled. During the making of The Pirate, Garland accused Minnelli of being in love with co-star Gene Kelly and favoring him over her. She allegedly caught him in compromising positions twice, once with a bit player and once with the gardener. The stress took a toll on their relationship, leading to affairs on both sides. Years later, Garland would advise her daughter to marry gay men, saying they make the best husbands. Their marriage lasted 6 years until their divorce in 1951, but the damage was done. Both Garland and Minnelli struggled with the deception for years, proving that even when both parties knew the truth, lavender marriages could destroy lives. The pressure to maintain appearances while living a lie contributed to Garland's lifelong struggles with addiction and mental health. Rock Hudson and Phyllis Gates. The secret that stayed silent. Hudson was a Hollywood star who constantly had women swarming around him. But Hollywood insiders knew the truth. Despite his 3-year marriage to Phyllis Gates in the 1950s, his problems started in 1955 when reporters from Confidential magazine threatened to publish an expose about his secret relationships with other men. To save his career, Hudson's agent quickly arranged a marriage between the actor and his pretty secretary. What made Hudson's situation even more tragic was the era's morality clauses that banned actors from getting involved in any scandals that would alienate the public. Even though Gates regularly insisted the marriage was real, many people believed otherwise. Gates's confrontation with Hudson about his orientation was secretly recorded by a private investigator named Fred Otash, whom Gates had hired to follow Hudson. After the wedding ceremony, Hudson refused to kiss his new bride and went home to spend the night at his mother's house. Hudson kept up the charade for 3 years, but they separated after rumors about his true orientation and relationships started circulating. The marriage collapsed, but it had served its purpose for the studio system. Hudson continued hiding until AIDS forced the truth into the open in 1985, making him one of the first major celebrities to die from the disease. Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor, a forced marriage. According to biographer Axel Madsen, Barbara Stanwyck was Hollywood's biggest closeted lesbian. Robert Taylor also faced persistent rumors about his orientation. MGM encouraged them to marry after a January 1939 Photoplay magazine article about Hollywood's unmarried couples named Taylor and Stanwyck. Alongside other famous pairs, the Taylor-Stanwick union was essentially an arranged marriage, with studio arrangements for their May 1939 wedding, and the only say Taylor had in it all was saying, "I do." At the end of the wedding ceremony, Taylor refused to kiss Stanwick and left to spend the night at his mother's house. Robert Taylor told Shelley Winters over dinner that Barbara was a lesbian and that they slept in separate beds. Even though they were officially married for 18 years, biographer Axel Mattson revealed that their marriage truly only lasted a few months. Robert Taylor continued seeing other women during his marriage, including affairs with Ava Gardner and Eleanor Parker. In 1950, Taylor spent most of the year in Rome filming Quo Vadis and had a very public relationship with Italian starlet Lea De Leo. When Stanwick flew to Rome to confront him and ask for a divorce, he horrifyingly accepted. Their arranged partnership had run its course, and neither could pretend anymore. The divorce was finalized in February 1951, ending one of Hollywood's most carefully orchestrated fake marriages. Danny Kaye and Sylvia Fine, a half-century arrangement. Danny Kaye wasn't the rugged, powerful leading man type. Despite his popularity as a performer, he was frequently cast in roles that portrayed him as weak, cowardly, and effeminate. During his vaudeville days, Kaye was romantically linked with several men. Fine and Kaye met while working on the short-lived Broadway show The Straw Hat Review, where Fine wrote the lyrics and music. They got married on January 3, 1940, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and their partnership lasted until Danny's death in 1987. The couple had one daughter, Dana, born December 17, 1946. But they also had a temporary separation that happened around September 1947. Danny realized their marriage had lost its deepest meaning, and Sylvia admitted she used to control Danny, even changing octaves while playing piano to influence his singing. Many people believed this marriage was nothing more than a show, but unlike other lavender marriages, this one somehow endured for nearly half a century. They reunited 7 months after their separation and stayed married until his death. Whether it was genuine affection, mutual benefit, or simply habit, the Kays managed to make their arrangement work longer than most real Hollywood marriages. The entertainment industry had forced them together, but they found a way to make it function on their own terms. Cary Grant and Randolph Scott. Hidden love Cary Grant met and moved in with dashingly handsome fellow actor Randolph Scott in 1932, and the two lived together on and off for 11 years. Following a 1933 magazine article profiling the roommates that used nudge-nudge, wink-wink language to hint that their relationship went beyond mere housemates, Grant married actress Virginia Cherrill. Cherrill left him after 7 months, citing Grant's constant drinking, abuse, and lack of romantic interest, and Cary went back to living with Randy. The domestic arrangement finally ended when Grant entered the second of his 5 marriages to the world's wealthiest woman, Barbara Hutton. In 1942, fashion critic Mr. Blackwell, who lived with Grant and Scott for a while, wrote in his autobiography that they were deeply, madly in love, their devotion complete. Behind closed doors, they were warm, kind, loving, and caring, and they weren't embarrassed about showing it. Studio press tried to spin their living situation as 2 confirmed bachelors simply enjoying each other's company, but private photos told a different story. The re-evaluation of Cary Grant's lavender marriages came through Scotty Bowers' memoir, Full Service: My Adventures in Hollywood and the Secret Sex Lives of the Stars, which contained explicit details about several Hollywood relationships. Grant's multiple marriages throughout his life were probably attempts to throw the press off the scent of his true relationship with Scott, but their decade-long domestic partnership remains one of old Hollywood's most enduring love stories, even if it had to be hidden behind a facade of friendship. Janet Gainor and Adrien. Veiled reality. Janet Gainor married Hollywood costume designer Adrien on August 14, 1939, in what's been called a lavender marriage, since Adrien was openly gay within the film community, while Gainor was rumored to be gay or bisexual. Before her marriage to Adrien, Janet was linked to co-star Margaret Lindsay, and people whispered that Gainor's marriage to Adrien was a smokescreen to hide her relationship with Lindsay. Actress Luella Parsons remembered Adrien saying, "You know, I've fallen in love." I said, "Well, that's wonderful. Who?" He said, "I fell in love with a woman." He was flabbergasted himself. Both Adrien and Gainor went on record saying they were happily married, and they stayed that way until his death in 1959. Gainor and Adrien had one son, Robin, born July 6, 1940. The couple traveled frequently with Gainor's close friend Mary Martin and her husband Richard Halliday. Actor Bob Cummings allegedly once quipped, "Janet Gainor's husband was Adrien, but her wife was Mary Martin." They even briefly lived with their respective husbands in Brazil in the 1950s and 1960s at a ranch. The foursome created the perfect arrangement where everyone's secrets were protected. When Adrien suffered a fatal heart attack in 1959 while working on Broadway's Camelot, Gainor was left alone but not forgotten. She eventually married producer Paul Gregory in 1964, continuing the pattern of convenient partnerships that defined her adult life. Anthony Perkins and Barry Berenson, the search for conformity. Anthony Perkins was a married father of two, but rumors circulated that he'd had many affairs with men throughout his marriage, most notably with fellow actor Tab Hunter. Perkins spent years trying to cure himself through therapy before marrying photographer Barry Berenson in 1973. At age 41, the marriage produced 2 sons and seemed to give him the conventional life he desperately wanted, Hollywood pimp Scotty Bowers claimed. Perkins always wanted someone different and would ask, "Who've you got for me tomorrow night that'll surprise me?" Despite his marriage, those close to Perkins knew the union didn't erase his past relationships with men. His marriage to Berenson looked genuine on the surface, but it represented his final attempt to conform to societal expectations rather than embrace his true nature. Tragically, Perkins died from AIDS-related pneumonia in 1992, just before he was ready to go public with his story. His widow Barry later revealed he'd hidden his diagnosis for 2 years, even from close friends, saying he wanted to protect his family. In a heartbreaking twist, Barry herself died in the 9/11 attacks just 9 years later, leaving their children orphaned. Perkins' story shows how the pressure to conform destroyed not just individuals, but entire families caught in the web of Hollywood's homophobia. Cole Porter and Linda Lee Thomas. An unusual, Cole Porter was rather openly gay, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, but at 28, he married wealthy divorcee Linda Lee Thomas, who was 8 to 14 years his senior. They met at a January 1918 wedding reception at the Paris Ritz Hotel, where Linda had just escaped a miserable marriage to newspaper heir Edward R. Thomas. As part of their divorce, Thomas had paid her $1 million to keep quiet about his cruelty and infidelities. Although Cole and Linda shared deep emotional ties and friendship throughout their marriage, Cole preferred both long-term intimate relationships and physical encounters with men. Porter had passionate affairs with men throughout their 34-year marriage, including composer Lorenz Hart and fellow actors. Linda was well aware of his orientation and provided him the perfect cover while he composed some of America's greatest songs. The couple married on December 18, 1919, and lived together until Linda's death in 1954. Their marriage was described as a genuine love story between a woman and a gay man, even though they had no conventional name for their relationship. Linda once said, "Just because a love between two people may be difficult to define, that doesn't mean it didn't exist." They lived a lavish lifestyle, moving between Paris, New York, and Los Angeles as his fame and success grew. They were best friends and deeply devoted to each other, even though Cole carried on multiple romantic affairs. Porter later told friends he preferred spending time with his own kind, meaning other gay men. Linda died from emphysema in 1954 after years of what she called smothering spells. And Cole passed away a decade later in 1964, having lost his most devoted companion and protector. Tab Hunter and his hidden romances. Hunter was discovered at 17 years old and became a poster boy for the wholesome all-American young man during the 1950s and 60s, often cast as the dashing soldier and object of female desire. Throughout his career, Warner Brothers' publicity department churned out made-up stories about his relationships with female co-stars and friends, including Natalie Wood and Debbie Reynolds. Hunter wrote that he was living 2 lives and that it was difficult for him. Hunter dated fellow star Anthony Perkins and later went on to have a more than 35-year partnership with his husband, film producer Alan Glazer, that lasted until Hunter's death in 2018. His immense popularity with young female fans is precisely why he kept his orientation a secret. For most of his life, unlike many of his contemporaries who were forced into lavender marriages, Hunter managed to avoid the altar while maintaining his career. He's one of the few old Hollywood stars who were able to marry their longtime partners once marriage equality was legal in California. Hunter was able to talk about his orientation openly later in his life, which many other huge stars weren't able to do. His 2005 memoir, Tab Hunter Confidential, finally told his truth, and he was celebrated rather than shunned. Hunter's story proves that some stars found ways to resist the studio system's worst demands, even if it meant living in shadows for decades. William Haynes and the Hollywood Ultimatum. William Haynes was Hollywood's #1 box office star in 1930, but he was also openly living with his male partner Jimmy Shields. In 1933, Haynes was arrested in a YMCA with a sailor he'd picked up in Los Angeles' Pershing Square. Studio head Louis B. Mayer delivered the ultimate ultimatum. Choose between a sham lavender marriage or his relationship with Shields. Haynes looked Mayer straight in the eye and stated, "But I am already married," referring to his 7-year relationship with Jimmy. What made Haynes revolutionary was his authenticity. He refused to give up the man he loved, telling Mayer, "I'll give up Jimmy when you give up your wife." Mayer fired him on the spot, ending his film career forever. By this time, Haynes and Shields were inseparable, married in everything but name. Haynes chose Shields, and they remained together for nearly 50 years until Haynes' death in 1973. Drawing on the huge affection their Hollywood friends felt for them, they opened William Haynes Designs, an interior decorating company that became wildly successful. Joan Crawford, one of their oldest friends, hired them to completely transform her home and called their relationship the happiest marriage in Hollywood. Their love story had a tragic ending after nearly 5 decades together. When Haynes died of lung cancer in 1973, Shields was inconsolable. 3 months later, Shields took his own life, leaving behind a note. "I now find it impossible to go it alone. I am much too lonely." They rest together in Woodlawn Memorial Cemetery in Santa Monica, proving that some love stories were worth more than all the fame in the world. And that's the untold side of Hollywood's golden age. A world built on glamour, but powered by secrets. Behind every dazzling smile and red carpet kiss, many lived double lives, forced to hide who they truly were. These lavender marriages weren't just studio publicity stunts, they were survival. Some found love despite the lies, others lost everything to keep the illusion alive. In the end, Hollywood's greatest performances often happened off-screen.